Welcome. You are listening to the podcast A Resonant Life, produced by The Time Is Now Productions. I am Mike Thompson, your host and Reflector-in-Chief. In this podcast, we will discuss experiences and insights from living a life devoted to uncovering the authentic self and finding fulfilling purpose from the past, the present, and the future. This podcast is a product of my life and experience, and I'll share my opinions. Opinions between people are various, and we don't all need to hold the same ones. But it is fun to hear the opinions of others as it gives us an opportunity to freshen up our own. If you enjoy and gain insight from listening, please subscribe and share. If you have questions, please email them. And as always, nothing you hear here is a proscription or a prescription. It is a discussion of life and life's internal and external experiences. So let's get to it. Hi, welcome. I'm so happy you're joining today. Thank you. And today will be a difficult discussion, tackling from a different angle our joint project of uncovering our authentic selves and finding the path forward to lives of abiding happiness. And in doing so, hopefully helping to create a more peaceful world. So today we're going to talk about anger. Yeah, anger. That emotion that can burn everything around us down. The emotion that damages, destroys, and leaves everyone burned by it, hurt, wounded, charred. But in our discussion, we will look at it more closely. It isn't all just fire and destruction. It has different temperatures or levels, so to speak, that have different effects on us, on our lives, and the lives of those around us. And like any force or emotion, it can be used constructively if done with intentionality and awareness. So to start, let's do a quick anchoring and centering in Buddhism. And that'll be the three poisons. We've mentioned them before at a previous episode, several previous episodes. In Buddhism, they are the root cause of all suffering. You may recall they are greed, anger, and ignorance or delusion. In a previous episode, we actually explored them as hunger, pissed off, and clueless. But today, let's stick with the traditional descriptions: greed, anger, ignorance, or delusion. Okay, number one, greed. Greed is attachment. It is that hunger and want for more. It is zero-sum mindsets. It is a sense of deprivation where one wants more, that there's never enough, be it food, money, belongings, friends, power, influence, whatever. Never enough. So let's skip over anger for a minute and skip right on to ignorance and delusion. Ignorance has many aspects. The main aspect in Buddhist philosophy is the misapprehension of reality, the belief and perception that things in our lives are fixed, that they don't change, and that they are permanent, that we ourselves are permanent. And this encompasses all other aspects of ignorance: not knowing, not understanding, not being aware, and so on. Ignorance leads us to act in ways that we believe will benefit us, but which actually only generate negative karma, essentially causing harm to other living beings and the world. Okay, anger, the ruler of the three poisons. Anger is the through line of all of them. On its own, anger is destructive. It is self-centered raging. It is the stymied, frustrated ego lashing out. A great metaphor for raw anger is the temper tantrum or meltdown of a 2-year-old. How is it a through line? Start with greed. Most basically, greed unsatisfied or stymied fires up anger or ignorance, not knowing, not understanding. We can become frustrated. Frustration without satisfaction leads to anger, to becoming angry. All roads lead to anger. And anger has many degrees, levels, or temperatures. There's raging anger, pissed off anger, frustrated anger, simmering anger, and irritation flavored anger. And there's also righteous anger and outrage. In the end, here today, we will also see how anger can be a teacher. Hard to believe, but more on that later. Okay, so far we've been a bit up in our heads in theory and philosophy, Buddhist tenets, and wordiness. And I want to bring this down to actual life, living with anger, managing anger, taming and relieving anger, and repairing the damage anger causes, and also using anger as a superpower. To do this, I'm going to start by sharing a personal experience that is quite recent and quite painful. So, I recently became crazy angry with someone precious and dear to me. My vision went white. I screamed and called names. I threw something on the ground. Basically, I did the full Monty of rage. Now, it doesn't matter what this person did or didn't do that led to my anger. It doesn't matter if they were right and I was wrong, or if I was right and they were wrong. Why I got angry, what I got angry at, these are all irrelevant. They are not important to this discussion. What is important is that I got angry. None of these details matter one little bit, at least not to me. Okay, why doesn't it matter? Shouldn't it? Someone is right and someone is wrong, and isn't that the case usually? Yeah, maybe, but it really isn't relevant when we look at this as part of our project to work to uncover our authentic selves. Working to be someone others miss. Working to be a person others can rely on. Working to be altruistic in forces of peace and happiness. Our anger and its impact on others is our responsibility. And so what matters is my anger caused hurt and upset to someone else. To both of us, actually. I remember the tipping point. I felt anger building deep inside, and as it started to rush up and out, I remember in my mind my better angel saying, "Are you sure you want to do this, to let this out?" And my reaction was yes. And with that permission, my anger poured forth. And it doesn't help doesn't help that alcohol was involved. So inhibitions were less and emotions were amplified. It is hard for most of us to admit and harder to share, but everyone gets angry. Everyone has moments of rage. This is the stuff of life, of living, of being with others, the stuff of loving. Can you think of your most recent angry moments? How did it feel? What was the feeling during, then after? And what was the fallout, the impact on others? And now, recollecting it, how does it feel? For me, now some days past my blow up, I get this bleak feeling when recalling my anger and its power. And I also feel regret and disappointment in myself. I have a practice, a method to head off anger, to diffuse it. And I literally chose not to. I chose to blow up. I wanted to prove a point, to validate some ego thing with my anger. Geez, what a mess. But here at a Resonant Life, we try hard not to dwell on the negative and, in fact, use the negative as a cue to do something positive. So what did I do? I apologized, sincerely, heartfeltly. I apologized for my anger, for shouting, for surrendering to rage. And I kept apologizing. Since I wasn't interested or invested in being in the right, I could own my behavior and reactions. And with my apologies and his apologizing, it ended up being a bit of a mutual apology fest. But something really amazing and wonderful happened in the midst of those apologies and feeling chastened and humbled by my anger. I started to feel gratitude. Gratitude to this precious person who had shown me I have work to do and where that work is. And I felt gratitude for the whole situation because it allowed me to remember all of the mind hacks and practices and things I forgot or tossed aside. I was able to recall them. And this experience has become like a reference point, a marker in time and experience that I will refer back to. In a way, it's a line in the sand, and it's a line I don't want to go or cross backwards over. So, quick review. The practice to head off anger. The practice I threw out the window. It is this. If you're feeling a heat, a burn, a storm building, literally, physically take a step backward. Or if you're sitting, stand up and take 3 deliberate, slow breaths. 3 times from deep. That should calm you. That breaks the cycle. From that, you can look inside. Look at what it is your ego wants or doesn't want or is feeling threatened by. This is the second step. Take that as something to meditate on, to think about, to look at objectively. Breathe, step back, look, and 3, apologize to the person who is making you angry. Apologize and ask for a break. Just say something like, I'm sorry, I was feeling a bit upset just now and I need to take a break. Can we pick this up later? This will work for anyone, friend, partner, spouse, child, colleague, boss. And 4, continue to reflect and avoid getting into the mindset of, but I'm right. You might be right, but it really doesn't matter. Being right isn't the practice. It isn't the pursuit of uncovering the authentic self as someone others rely upon. Being right and having that mindset isn't the teacher. Processing the root of anger is the teacher. Processing the root of anger is the teacher. Okay. I'd like to go at all this from a different angle now. We all have blow-ups, and it is great to have tools and practices to diffuse, recover, get over, as we've already discussed. But there's another kind of anger that is maybe so pervasive we don't always notice it. And it might not be us, it might be someone else in our lives. And this is simmering anger. It's a baseline dissatisfaction and sense of powerlessness to change it. It is chronic disappointment, a feeling of being unvalued, not treasured or appreciated by others, maybe even being wronged by others. Simmering anger is an accumulation of resentments, hurts, and wounds. This type of anger, if it isn't dealt with, diffused, and healed, this can turn people from loving and caring people into bitter, resentful, and quarrelsome. People with unaddressed, simmering anger are generally not people you want to be around in the end. And we've all had times in our life when we felt like this, and we all know people who might be simmering right now. So, how do we manage this simmering anger if we are experiencing it? One way is to aggressively and consistently apply a mind hack. We need to pave over the negative pathways in our brains and our hearts and minds. We need to reroute energy and emotion. So, if you find yourself frequently seething, angry at others, especially loved ones, and constantly irritated, maybe start to give this a try. Okay, mind hack. First, in your mind, and ultimately in your heart. Forgive. Specifically, forgive. In real time, as you're going about your day. In your mind and heart, forgive your friend who ignored you. Forgive your spouse who left a mess for you to clean up. Forgive the person who cut you off at the intersection. Forgive the cashier who is too slow. Forgive the person who cut in front of you in line at the coffee shop. Specifically, forgive everyone you can think of for whatever grievance or hurt comes to mind, and for whatever is happening around you at any moment that is irritating you. Okay, isn't this the opposite of owning the anger that we just talked about? Yes, it is. But the heart of a mind hack is to do the opposite of what our inclination is. It's owning a sense that anger is controlling us, but what we can do is forgive. Anger is controlling us, we admit it, but we can do something, and that something is to forgive. That upsets the psychological system at play. 2, when you have time, sit down with yourself and make a short list of people with whom you're not on the best of terms with, but with whom you were close at some point. Just a few people at first, just a few. Then literally reach out to them. Just say, hi. I was thinking of you and hoping you're well. Maybe it's a text, maybe it's a message on the phone, maybe it's a phone call. It's just hi kind of thing. Something small, unconditional, non-judgmental. Have no expectation of anything. Have no expectation of a response. And keep doing it. And make your list a little bit longer as the days go by. Add names to it. In doing this, you are basically sharing the part of you that isn't angry or disappointed or hurt. You're sharing the part of you people love and loved in the past. This is taking concrete action with others, putting them first, not yourself. Again, this is doing the opposite of what our brains and egos compel us to do. 2 steps, 2 things to do. Very difficult, very difficult. But it will cool the seething and salve the resentments. And doors that have been closed will open up that you thought were closed forever. And tentative steps forward, being re-engaged as a positive, kind person will happen, both by you and the others you reach out to. Why these actions? Okay. Anger is a self-referential, ego-centered me emotion. It's a feedback loop. It is that 2-year-old child who doesn't get what they want when they want it, who has a meltdown. But we are not that 2-year-old anymore. We can do things differently, consciously, intentionally. Just through our project to uncover our authentic selves, we know that we are a source of infinite blessings and that we can share those blessings with others. Being a person others miss, someone they can rely upon. Just working on this, we can tame our anger and refocus on cultivating a loving and altruistic heart and mind. Doing this, taking these actions, following through on all of this, gratitude will blossom in our hearts, and we'll begin to see the world differently, more positively. Again, we'll see it more positively. The days will be brighter and happier, and that seething anger will be quenched in time with effort. So, there is still one more aspect to anger we should talk about. And this is a bit different, and I think we can handle it quickly, relying upon everything we've talked about thus far. It is righteous anger and outrage. Injustice, oppression, prejudice and racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, hate, violence, cruelty, unfairness, cheating, selfishness. Corruption, these and many other negative forces are fair and just causes for outrage and righteous anger. Certainly. But outrage and righteous anger are still anger. And anger, if left to fester and smolder, it's poison to our minds and hearts. It is toxic and will ooze out of us, tainting our lives and the lives around us and our relationships. And we don't want that. Yet, certainly we must act when we become righteously angry, right? There seems to be a contradiction here. How do we handle anger, control anger, diffuse anger, but still act positively to change the world? So for many, crafting an acerbic tweet or email or making a snarky comment releases some of the pressure, right? Or quarreling or arguing with someone, trying to get them to see your way. This too can feel relieving sometimes, right? And while these actions might be somewhat satisfying and diffuse some of the feeling of righteous anger and outrage, there might be some relief. They actually do nothing, really, but cause more harm. No real positivity comes out of these types of actions. Negative actions as reactions do not change any situation for the better or relieve any of the ills of the world. Now, certainly, some will disagree with my opinion on this. But negative actions, snarky tweets, quarrels and arguments, acerbic comments, these are actions that just perpetuate negativity. I know, I was the master of snark, and I worked hard to remove snark from my life, and things are much more positive around me. These things are negative actions as reactions to negativity. So they are negativity. They're part of the problem. So when we're feeling righteous anger, when we're feeling outrage, the best course of action is to do something positive. And it doesn't have to be related to the outrage. It's not necessarily a direct connection, a one-for-one. It doesn't have to be related to the righteous anger. It can be something completely different. But doing so, whatever the positive action is, we're combating the negativity, the horrors that exist in the world. We're combating with positivity, with creativity, with care, concern, kindness, compassion. And it's a one-for-one. And in fact, it could be a many-for-one. What do I mean? One good act in response to some horror in the world is a positivity multiplier. Because our good deeds create more good deeds. Our kind actions create the impetus for more kind actions. It's like that metaphorical pebble dropped into the still water of a pond. The pebble drops into the water, causing waves, and the waves ripple out in all directions. And it's not just one wave. It's many waves. Many, many waves. Those are good, kind actions. So, before sending the snarky tweet or the well-crafted acerbic message, before doing these things with your righteous anger, try doing something kind for someone else, something concrete. See how that experience changes your sense of power and ability to make the world better. See how that diffuses the impulse to do something snarky and negative. So now, of course, we still need to address the injustice in the world directly and head on. We still need to address all of these things. This isn't about rolling over and accepting and normalizing injustice, hate, cruelty, and the rest. No. But by doing a positive thing, this gets us into a positive frame of mind. And with that positive frame of mind, we can take on actions directly related to the causes of our righteous anger. Whether it's volunteering or working on a political campaign, protesting, signing petitions, whatever it is. These are all actions that we can take that are positive and constructive and are made more so if our minds and our intention are positive. If our hearts are not smothered in anger. This is a way to channel energy that leads us to using anger as a teacher, which I promised at the beginning we'd get to. So here we are. This is how anger is a teacher. When we get angry, when we experience anger and then go through it and then process it and apologize and look at it, where it came from, what caused it, and we don't do so blaming others for it. When we do so looking to ourselves, we uncover and learn the causes of negativity that exist within us. We see more clearly our ego's demands and wants, our insecurities, our shames and regrets. We see them all more clearly and learn how they affect us. And doing this, looking at the negativity inside of us that causes us to be angry, this is like polishing the dirt off of a precious, shiny jewel. And that precious, shiny jewel is our authentic self. And so, using anger to show us the way, we further uncover our authentic selves. The Buddhists would say that's our Buddha nature. By polishing all the crust away, all the negativity that is accumulated throughout our lives from negative actions, negative thoughts, whatever, we begin to shine more like the enlightened beings we aspire to be. We become truly people others can rely upon and whom others miss. So this has been the anger episode. And I hope we've all got things to think about and act on from going through this step by step and looking at anger, our own anger, and looking at it as energy that we can redirect, refocus, and which shows us the way. And so be kind and patient to yourself, because we will all get angry again. I know I will. I'll get angry, I'll blow up, and no matter how much I don't want to, it's going to happen. But having examined my most recent episode of anger and sharing it with you, I hope I do better next time. I hope I'll be able to control myself more, make amends more quickly, and learn even more from the experience. I hope I'm able to channel that energy positively rather than letting it be destructive. And I hope you will too. I hope that we will all become better people, kinder people. I hope that we will all find the path that leads us not only to our own happiness, but to being avatars of others' happiness as well. To being champions, to being superheroes, creators of happiness and joy in all of our actions, in all of our lives going forward. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please subscribe and share. If you'd like to share your own experience, thoughts, or ask a question, please send an email to mike@resonant.social. With gratitude, theme music is courtesy of Stock Audios, distributed by Pixabay. A Resonant Life is a podcast from the Time Is Now Productions.